Welcome to LC Screen Talk. My name is Larry, and this is my review of Gemini Man. Gemini Man is the latest film from director Ang Lee, starring Will Smith as Henry, a sniper looking to retire from the biz. But as he seeks to get his exit, he is hunted down by his own government, who send an unlikely killer to come and do the job. From there, Henry has to literally face himself and overcome his greatest threat yet. So generally, I like Ang Lee as a director, and I like Will Smith. I know he's been on a bit of a rough patch over the last decade or so, but when Will Smith hits, it's just magnetic to watch. It's a beauty on the screen. Plus, the concept seemed cool. It added just a bit of a twist to any other films of the like throughout the past. And when it comes to Will Smith movies, these type of actiony films are the ones that I tend to like the best when thinking back on it. Unfortunately, it just wasn't that good for me, which pains me to say. But let's go ahead and start off with those positives first. Well, I talked about Will Smith, and I actually do think he is quite good in this movie. And honestly, most all of our actors are very good here. Benedict Wong is great. Mary Elizabeth Winstead is also very good in this film, but it's certainly the Will Smith show, and he does great, particularly as Henry himself, the 51-year-old, or OG Henry, that is. And the concept is actually really great. There are nuggets of ingenuity here. There are some moments and little spots that just show you the ideas that we started off with when coming up with the plan are really something not only to watch, but to think about and to kind of come to terms with. And I think that's why the first act in the film mostly works for me. It has some problems too. But it's laying the groundwork for this. We're kind of building upon what's happening. The mystery is building. And of course, when we meet Junior, it really is an intriguing premise. I also think some of the action is good. This is definitely a double-edged sword when it comes to positives and negatives. We'll talk about the action again here shortly, but especially some of the like hand-to-hand combat stuff looked cool and I was down for. And stuff gets wild near the end, and some of that stuff is pretty fun as well. So, but unfortunately, that is where my positives stop. So let's pick up with the negatives right where we just left off and talk about that action. So much of the action is super shaky and super like fast, rapid cut type of action filmmaking. And at moments you literally are just like, what am I watching? But probably the biggest problem is the CGI. Now, I have to preface this whole little segment with the fact that Ang Lee directed this film with anticipation and hopes that people would be able to see it in its 20K frames per second format. Nearly no one is going to actually see it in that frame rate. I know one theater in my entire state is showing that. So I think I do want to give this another chance and see if it just kind of like helps bump up the level of CGI quality. But unfortunately, they didn't screen it in its intended format, and whew, the CGI was rough, like not good. So of course we have the uncanny valley look of Junior, and it does not work for me. I didn't like it. I didn't think it looked good. He just like weirded me out from the moment he was on screen. Every now and then his face would really give me like true Will Smith, but it just, I mean, it's a step up from Beowulf, but what am I saying here? But also the bodies, just like the actual bodies of the CGI people was terrible. The way he like walked was not good. And there's like this scene with a motorcycle in the action that looked ripped straight from a video game. Most of the time when you have a CGI character in there, you can very much tell, and it just doesn't look very good. And then even some of the backgrounds looked like a straight up green screen. And I'm going to be honest, I was really struggling to tell if it truly was or it was just a really odd, like 3D type of choice from Ang Lee, but it looked fake a lot in this film. And I have to say it, it pains me to say it, but Ang Lee's direction was not good in this movie. Yeah. It is so flat. The lighting is so flat and unappealing. And then you add that to what looks like green screen work behind like the simplest of shots. It was not great. The edit on this movie is really bad. And there were scenes included in here that just didn't need to be there. We would cut to like a random scene of them just sitting there, have a 30-second conversation about not much, and then move on to a completely different location. It was nonsensical, and I just don't understand really what Ang Lee was doing as he directed his way through this movie. Oh, but he had help. This script is also pretty bad. So David Benioff, time to hang it up. Hang the pin up, close the keyboard. We're sick of it. We're just sick and we are tired of these screenplays that you write. Okay? You've had to endure one too many at this point in your career. Looking back to the filmography, I'm like, whew, I don't know really all that many scripts he wrote that were actually good, other than the first few seasons of adapting Game of Thrones. Because let's be real, those of us that like Troy, it wasn't because of the script. And then he helms things like the last season of Game of Thrones and X-Men Origins Wolverine, and now this. In partnership, he's not fully to blame, but Benioff, just but this script is a mess. The dialogue is pretty terrible and clunky. It is full of cliches, and it takes the most generic routes to cloning as possible. And that's a big problem I have with both the writing and the direction of this film, is that we went so obvious, so blunt and in your face that there was no real good nuance. There weren't real layers to this movie as you would hope, like The Life of Pi or something from Ang Lee himself, Brokeback Mountain from Ang Lee himself. No, we don't get that. Literal discussions about literally why they are exactly the same. We have so many cool dynamics that they could have gone with about cloning, first of all, but also abusive father relationship, and that really was just ignored and wasted. The character of Junior should have been this really deeply complex character as well as Henry, but instead he's relegated to, I don't know, kind of a soft boy, clone boy. I don't know what to call him, but it wasn't good. And it was just a letdown all around on that front. Just a letdown. So overall, Gemini Man was just a big disappointment. So many good elements were there to just make a really great film that was both action-packed and fun, as well as really thought-provoking. Instead, we got a really flat, lazy type of movie that most people across the world are going to see in a format that makes it just look ugly. Overall, I'd say if you're interested and you have a theater that's playing it in the intended 20K frames per second format, give it a matinee. Otherwise, wait for a rental. It's really not theater worthy. So, that is my review of Gemini Man. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead, click like down below and subscribe to the channel so you are always up to date on our latest videos. Also, join in on the discussion. Are you excited to see Gemini Man? And what is your favorite movie from Ang Lee? Let me know either in the comment section down below or you can hit me up on Twitter. I love you all so much for your support. Thank you for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye!